From Lilith to Harlow and everything in between, Borderlands has given us a total of 24 named Vault Hunters so far, so let's determine once and for all which one of these Vault Hunters is the strongest. Now before I get started, let's define what I mean by strongest. For the purpose of this list, I'm considering a variety of factors, including overall strength and usefulness in combat and bossing, unique abilities and skills, and overall popularity among the Borderlands community. With that out of the way, let's dive in. Kicking us off at number 24 is Roland. Yes, somebody has to be at the bottom of the list. Might as well be the character that the Borderlands 2 writers killed off for shock value. I never wanted to play as Roland, a typical soldier type character, because I was a Call of Duty escapee. I didn't want more of the same normal character type stuff. Also, Roland's turret is pretty weak, and like all the other Borderlands 1 skill trees, Roland's is severely lacking in variety. It was a new thing at that time, doing skill trees having loot and FPS gameplay, so it's understandable, but still, facts are facts. Roland is the weakest Vault Hunter overall. Also, he got one-tapped by Handsome Jack, so that doesn't really help his ranking. At number 23, Aurelia from the pre-sequel. Now, Aurelia has an entire skill tree that is basically worthless if you're not doing co-op. Sure, there's a few skills down through that tree that could be good solo, but you also have to waste several skill points on co-op skills to get to them. She has some interesting skills with cryo and can be a formidable class early on in the pre-sequel, but losing almost an entire skill tree is pretty rough. Not saying she can't be good, but she's nowhere near a top 10 character. Maybe if she had some of the same skills that she showed off in Borderlands 3, she might rank a bit higher. At number 22, Mordecai. Now, against my better judgment, I am going to place a Borderlands 1 character above a pre-sequel character. Like I said before, Borderlands 1 skill trees are just generally pretty sad compared to the other games. It was a different time and all that. But Mordecai also has Bloodwing and Trespass, a skill that laid the groundwork for the Trespasser Sniper and Zero's Boar skill, which we'll be talking about much later in this list. Mordecai as a character is also a fan favorite. He dealt with alcohol abuse, the loss of his beloved Bloodwing at the hands of Handsome Jack, and then he dealt with the infection in the Commander Lilith DLC. He's a great character, but ultimately a pretty sparse skill tree brings him down the list a bit. At number 21, Brick, the original melee character. Brick was also proficient with launchers, and that's a weird combo. If this list was based solely on the character and personality, Brick would be top 5 for me. I love this character, but I don't love playing him, you know what I mean? His action skill is actually kind of painful for me to use. I don't know why, it's really rough for me to play as most Borderlands 1 characters since I started out on Borderlands 2, but you just can't deny that Borderlands 1 characters are just not great compared to Borderlands 2 and beyond in terms of skills, build diversity, and overall power. I rank Brick ahead of Mordecai solely on personality. Both lost a beloved pet to villains, and both worked together to capture Athena during Tales from the Borderlands. At number 20, Wilhelm, who had a cool skill tree concept. The more you spec down the tree, the more he'd physically change. With the augments being added to him, his voice even changed a little bit. But even though his skill tree had cool concepts, it doesn't change the fact that Wilhelm was killed by a level 15 Vault Hunter from Borderlands 2. Now, some will say this is because Handsome Jack poisoned him, but that's not officially canon because that dialogue was cut from the game. Wilhelm's action skill did lay the groundwork for Zane's Sentinel, which we'll talk about much higher in this list, but for the most part, he just felt pretty average and bland to me, despite all the cool elements of his skill trees. Coming in at number 19 is Gage. Somewhere right now, somebody just accidentally reloaded and lost all their stacks of Anarchy. And let's talk about Anarchy, because without it, Gage is a pretty boring character to play as, and with it, Gage is still kind of a boring character to play as. Everybody plays her pretty much the exact same way. You build up a ton of stacks near an ammo vendor, you restock your ammo, you get a ricochet fibber and a bee, you shoot the ground, you watch your XP bar go up. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not a fan of shooting the ground to kill enemies. I shoot the ground solely on accident while trying to shoot enemies. And then there's Deathtrap, who occasionally heals enemy shields instead of yours. Fun in small bursts. That's how I would describe Gage. I will say that her voice actress Jeremy Lee delivers an amazing performance in Borderlands 3, where she had to perform as Gage, imitating Brick, Torg, and a bunch of other characters, and she did a great job, but this character is just one of the least fun in the franchise to play as, in my opinion. As a character, Gage is fun to play, but she's a one-skill pony. At number 18, Claptrap. Speaking of annoying skill trees, Claptrap's skill tree is just pure chaos. Hell, the game even tries to actively talk you out of playing as Claptrap at the character creation screen. Just imagine you're running along, killing an enemy, then all of a sudden you have a rubber ducky around your waist, and you're bound bouncing everywhere. Yeah, that's the Claptrap experience. There's definitely some fun and some power while you're playing Claptrap, but for me, the randomness was just too much to enjoy on a regular basis, and surviving an entire playthrough was rough. And number 17 is Nisha. This was my first Vault Hunter on the pre-sequel. Nisha first appeared in Borderlands 2 as the evil NPC sheriff of Lynchwood. Her action skill is just plain silliness. With the right setup, you can dual wield your weapon and have auto aim. Obviously, this makes mobbing pretty trivial, but Nisha is also strong versus bosses too. Grab a solid glitch rarity quad or the amazing luck cannon and just go off with her. Now, I rank her below some of the other characters that she's probably technically stronger than, but her killing off Dusty, Brick's beloved dog, has to cost her a few spots. I mean, come on. And number 16, Amon from Borderlands 4. Sadly, one of the newest Vault Hunters on this list is just depressingly unfun to play. Amon from Borderlands 4 has 3 different action skills, all of which can be altered by capstones, and yet I still dislike pretty much all of them equally. Amon can do some fun stuff with launchers, but if you're like me and you want to run and gun with an assault rifle or shotguns, you're going to be largely disappointed by this big beefy daddy. Now, it's early on in Borderlands 4's lifespan when I post this video, so it's possible he's going to get a massive glow up. If you're watching this in the future and Amon is somehow now a top 5 character, well, leave a comment reminding me to update this video. Thank you. At number 15, Krieg, and no matter where I place Krieg on this list, there is going to be somebody who's going to be mad at me. My issue with Krieg is that he's just generally not great versus raid bosses, and that's the entire end game of Borderlands 2. Sure, he can bloodsplode Pyro Pete, but versus most of the other raids, he's largely kind of useless for damage. That said, I love the character and he's a ton of fun to play in general. He also has some of the best survivability skills of all the Vault Hunters across all the games. Just spec in to release the beast, and when your health dips far enough, you pop your action skill and you just instantly get all of your health back. A really fun character to play, just not the best for taking on endgame. That said, he does have one of the coolest character intro story cutscenes of all the Vault Hunters with the whole Maya thing, and that just absolutely probably endeared him much more to fans than anything else. And number 14 is Axton. Now, if I made this list several years ago, poor Axton would be sitting down there with round number 23 with our boy Roland, but my last Axton playthrough that I did gave me a fresh perspective on the character. It helps that with the Commander Lilith DLC, you no longer need to do OP levels to get pearlescence, so I feel much more comfortable just playing at level 80 without bothering with the OP levels, and that's just much more fun as a gameplay experience for all the Borderlands 2 characters in my opinion. Axton's slag turrets are extremely helpful in ultimate mode, and his grenade and gun skills make him a pretty fun character to play as. Axton, much like Krieg, they're so much fun to play, and a lot of players just never gave him a fair shake, and I'm glad that I gave him another shot. And number 13, Lilith. Now, obviously, Lilith is the strongest of the Borderlands 1 characters. She also went on to become the leader of the Crimson Lance after she got captured by Jack while failing to obey Roland's orders to stay away. Then she failed to defend Sanctuary from plant people. She lost the vault key and allowed a teenage girl to escape from Sanctuary, leading to the death of Maya. Great work. No, 10 out of 10, no notes. But for real, Lilith suffers from that dreaded Borderlands 1 skill tree. I'd like to think if they did a true remaster of Borderlands 1 in like Unreal Engine 5 or something, that they could make the skill trees more interesting. But that just doesn't exist, so Lilith's action skill set of phase walk but can't jump is kind of sad compared to most of the action skills on this list. After the events of Borderlands 4, she seems like she's keeping some secrets that might make her even more powerful than we know, but I'm keeping her out of the top 10 because those damn Borderlands 1 skill trees are just pretty underwhelming. And number 12, I'm gonna dust off my Borderlands 2 knowledge a little bit. Maya is just a smidge ahead of Lilith in terms of playable siren powers. Phase lock is such a cool skill, but she also has the ability to apply a slag with a melee attack, set enemies on fire while she's in fight for her life, and Cloud Kill. Oh yes, Cloud Kill. This skill is silly strong and wrecks just about everything in its path. Maya also has the ability to run faster than Usain Bolt by using a Rough Rider shield, a breakneck Banshee class mod, and points in the fleet skill, and she's a ton of fun to play as, but she does suffer a bit versus most of the Borderlands 2 raid bosses. Again, the whole Krieg introduction scene definitely endeared her a little bit more into the minds of Borderlands Borderlands fans because as a character, she didn't really have a whole lot of backstory other than that. At number 11 is Vex, our third Siren in a row. Vex is probably a bit stronger than I'm giving her credit for here, but she's also lacking in her build diversity right now. Like Amon earlier on this list, that's absolutely subject to change. Borderlands 4 has only been out for 4 months when I record this, and it took Gearbox almost a full year to make Moze into the beast that she is now. So I think Vex also has one of the weakest backstories. She worked in retail and had a big rush at the store. A customer pulled a gun on her and boom, siren powers. I enjoyed the animated character trailer, but yeah, that's just kind of boring in this universe of vault hunting badasses. But I guess not every hero has the same journey. Imagine if Charles Bronson stepped off the train in Once Upon a Time in the West and was like, hey guys, let's chill out. I had a rough day at Walmart. Vex's strength is in her green tree, which almost everybody uses, and her weakness is using specters and her pet Trouble. Honestly, if Trouble was just always active on this character and it got a proper buff, maybe she moves up the list a little bit. At number 10 is Athena, one of the strongest characters in the pre-sequel. Athena has the ability to absorb enemy damage, then toss her shield like she's Captain America and bounce it around between enemies, dealing all that damage right back to them. It's such a simple premise, but it's also so much damn fun to do. But that's not all. Athena also has some crazy elemental abilities. Maelstrom lets you build up to 999 stacks by applying shock or fire damage to enemies, and when you get that thing charged up, oh baby, that damage gets crazy. Athena remains one of my favorite characters to play as in the entire franchise. Bonus points to her for kicking both Brick and Mordecai's asses in Tales from the Borderlands. It took both of them together to capture her, but even then, they got the worst of it. At number 9 is Harlow. Now, Harlow is actually an insanely strong and fun character to play as, great at mobbing, bossing, and did you know that she's a Trant? She still needs some more build diversity, but with just a little bit more love, she likely moves into the top 5 on this list. Her main weakness at this point is survivability, but she's more of an offense over defense character, and I love it. Not a whole lot else to say about her at this point in the franchise because we haven't had DLCs and stuff, but I really like Harlow, and I do think that she will move up this list as the game progresses with content. At number 8, Rafa, the highest ranking Borderlands 4 character at this point is Rafa, who has more build diversity than the other 3 Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4, but still needs improvements made to his melee abilities. It seems like all the Vault Hunters in this game have one tree that just feels mostly pointless or unloved. Same thing happened in Borderlands 3, so I was hopeful that the devs wouldn't make the same mistakes again, but oh well, here we are. Ultimately, Rafa can do everything very well. Mobbing, bossing, destroying the raid boss faster than anybody else. Also, personality and backstory wise, he feels the most Borderlands-like. Cast off by Tediore as an expendable soldier, but now using his exosuit to help fight the Timekeeper to do good in the world. Just solid stuff. At number 7, Amara, our final Siren on this list. Amara actually cheats and has 4 different Siren powers: Phase Grasp, Phase Cast, Phase Slam, and Phase Flare. You can switch between them all at any time, and they all have some pretty amazing builds that you can do with them. Obviously, Phase Flare, the orb skill, is busted as hell. You combine it with Guardian Angel's shotgun without spending a single point in that tree, you can destroy most of the raid bosses in Borderlands 3 pretty quick. Amara's Ties That Bind and Stillness of Mind combo allow you to Phase Grasp one enemy, then link a bunch of other nearby enemies with bubbles, and then you shoot any of them and they all take damage. In my opinion, Amara is probably the most fun mobbing character in the entire franchise to this point, maybe only surpassed by a Bloodsplosion Krieg. The only thing that really brings Amara out of the top 5 for me is just her personality as a character. The voice actress did a great job, but the character itself is just kind of not likable. Now that said, with Borderlands 4, she grew on me a little bit. The whole banter with her and Zane definitely improved the character, but still, she's kind of self-centered and conceited. At number 6 is Jack/Timothy. The strongest overall character in the pre-sequel, at least in my opinion, is Jack, or Timothy. I don't know what he is. The doppelganger. Imagine being able to trigger your kill skills just by walking forward. That's Timothy. His action skill is Expendable Assets, where you summon 2 clones that last for 40 seconds, and as you move, they will despawn and move with you. If you capstone the Greater Good tree, then the clone moving will trigger your kill skills. And let me tell you about some of those kill skills. Best Foot Forward is a tier 1 skill in the green tree that will extend the duration of your clone. That's right. Combining those 2 skills, you can keep your clones going just by constantly moving. But that's not all. Take Their Freedom in the green tree is just a tier 2 skill, and it will restore yours and the clone's health by as much as 12.5% just by moving. Collaborate gives you stacks when your clones quote-unquote die, giving you a massive damage boost. And did I mention that the clones quote-unquote die just by moving. Synergies give you bonus gun damage and crit damage, and teamwork gives you stacking health regen. This character is a lot like an early Zane prototype, but with a clone that actually moves when you move. At number 5, Zero, my first love, my very first ever character in Borderlands 2. Zero can do it all and does it all very well. Sniping, melee, running gun, raid bosses, mobbing, you name it. Zero is often called a glass cannon, meaning a character capable of massive damage but also weak to enemy damage, and while that can be true and often is true, I've found that a good offense is sometimes the best defense in Borderlands games, which again, see Harlow previously on this list for another great example. Zero with an antagonist shield is a solid overall approach and probably the safest bet, but Zero with a bee and a pimpernel is God. Death Blossom, aka Kunai, is one of the best all-around skills in the franchise, allowing you to death mark enemies so that they take more damage. With the right loadout, Zero can literally handle anything the game can throw their way. Add to that Zero is a mysterious character whose backstory is still shrouded in mystery, but has always been on the right side of the war. Zero is my second favorite character in the entire franchise. At number 4, Flak. Now what can I say about Flak? This robot assassin has some laid-back dialogue, but bust out a Monarch assault rifle in bipod mode and Flak will destroy anything you put in front of him. Flak has fade away, which is a lot like Zero's deception skill, but while you're in fade away, Flak can do ridiculous damage. Sure, Zero could too, but not like this. But that's not where Flak's power ends. You can also spec into the Gamma Burst tree and equip a Red Fang class mod, and it lets your pets distract every enemy on screen and reflect a chunk of their damage right back at them. Or maybe you want to toss racks at enemies instead. Well, with the Peregrine class mod and a fish slap grenade, you can summon rack that will drop death on enemies across the map. And for as much flak as Flak takes about his purple skill tree, the loader can actually deal insane damage with the right setup. Flak is easily one of the strongest characters in the entire franchise. At number 3, Salvador. Big damage can come in small packages. Just ask my wife. Salvador with the right gear can absolutely trivialize the entirety of Borderlands 2. Raid bosses killed in a few shots, mobbing with ease, rocket jumping across maps for speed. There is a reason why Salvador is the most popular character for the annual hunt event in Borderlands 2, even if they're not allowed to use the Ahab Pimpernel combo in that event. With a basic loadout of an unkempt herald and a grog nozzle, Salvador can basically become invincible, but obviously it's the raid boss kills that make Salvador special. Money shot, inconceivable, no kill like overkill, and so many more skills just make Salvador an absolute beast, capable of doing any content in the game with ease. Salvador also happens to be a very liked NPC despite how goofy some of his arms race dialogue was in Borderlands 3. At number 2 is Zane. What is funny about Zane is at the launch of Borderlands 3, he was absolutely the weakest Vault Hunter. Like if Zane was still in his launch state, he would be probably like right up there with Roland at the top of this list of one of the worst Vault Hunters overall. But luckily Gearbox listened to community feedback, that was a nice concept back then, and slowly started improving him. First by giving us the See and Dead class mod in DLC 1, the Handsome Jackpot, which allowed you to maintain your action skills longer, and then later they buffed a bunch of Zane's other skills, culminating with an increase to the clone's mayhem scaling, which allows clone to deal a ridiculous amount of damage now. Pair the clone with the Mantis Cannon from the 4th skill tree while wearing a Revolter with the action skill start trigger all effects, and capstoning the double barrel skill to give your clone a copy of your gun, and clone becomes Death Incarnate. Use a grease trap pistol from the Cartels, which you can now play anytime for free, and as long as you use the alt fire mode, clone will obliterate anything that you apply hot grease to. But Zane is more than just the clone and Mantis Cannon. There's dozens of viable builds. You can rock the Sentinel to debuff enemies and drop grenades on them. The barrier can be used to amp shots and do silly damage, and like all Borderlands 3 Vault Hunters, you can change these skills on the fly. And survivability on Zane makes Salvador the grog nozzle look silly. With just a single point in salvation, a tier 2 skill in the Hitman tree, Zane can pretty much heal instantly to max with any weapon as long as you trigger your kill skills, which is super easy to do since you can near spam the Mantis Cannon to activate your kill skills. For damage, fun, and ease of gameplay, it's really hard to top Zane, but for as strong as Zane is, my number 1 overall Vault Hunter has to be Moze. Coming in at number 1, Moze from Borderlands 3. Imagine a tier 1 skill that's so strong that you can use a white rarity item to kill raid bosses. That's Moze and her skill Fire in the Skag Den, a massively overbuffed skill that happened after the launch of the Bounty of Blood DLC. Fire in the Skag Den gives you massively increased fire damage, and most of the enemies in Borderlands 3 don't seem to resist fire. Even those that do resist fire damage often get trivialized still yet by Moze. And if you encounter an enemy that can't be trivialized by Fire in the Skag Den, then Iron Bear steps in and covers the rest of the damage for you. Iron Bear is her action skill, and it can likely handle anything you throw her way. Using really big guns, Specialist Bear, and short fuse, Iron Bear can do damage to anything that Moze happens to leave alive, which usually isn't a whole lot. Her base game class mods are some of the best in the entire franchise. The Minesweeper drops grenades on crits, allowing you to stack up some silly damage, and Blastmaster increases your splash damage just by holding down your trigger. Moze remains the strongest Vault Hunter in Borderlands history for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this list of all 24 of the existing Vault Hunters in the franchise at this point. If you did, then hit that like button, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. Let me know in the comments below though, who are your 5 strongest Vault Hunters. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.